we'll give YouTube a moment, as usual. Let's see how we're doing here. All right, I think we can get started. Let me erase the board. I am Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com and the English Fluency Guide. Welcome to another live video here on YouTube. We'll give YouTube just a second. Let me know if you can see this. Post a comment, and we'll make sure we're working. I think we should be, though. And we are. Beautiful. All right, well, today I wanted to do something interesting. We got a question from a Fluent for Life member, and so we were helping him understand some English, and this is basically the key to speaking fluently. So if you understand English like a native, then you will speak English like a native. And so as I'm often telling learners, you should get fluent first and then speak. So you don't need to spend a lot of time trying to practice your speaking, like learning something and then repeating it again and again. You really just need to understand the language very well, and that's what gives you the confidence to speak. So get fluent first and then start speaking. All right, so what I'm going to do, actually, we're going to look at a bunch of phrasal verbs because he had asked about some and was commenting about that specifically, and I thought I would just make a video about that. So I'm going to use this towel here and demonstrate a bunch of phrasal verbs, and maybe we'll talk about some other things too. But the point is really just to help you understand English like a native. So if you feel confident that you understand something well, then that way you will feel confident when you speak. So instead of trying to learn through translations, I can actually show you how the language works, and then we can apply what we learn. So the subtle or the slight differences in maybe one word versus another one, I'm going to show you those with one towel. So you should be able to play with this yourself. If you have a towel or a t-shirt, you can do the same thing, but this should be pretty fun. So the initial, I think the question was, he was asking about the phrase, so push my way into. So to push my way into something, and he was thinking it would be very difficult for him to try to translate this through his native language and understand the kind of the nuance or exactly what someone is trying to say. So let's look at this towel. We're going to start with something a bit more difficult, and then we will go back and cover a bunch of other things, and if you have any questions, we can go into more detail. But again, the point is to actually help you understand something like a native so you feel confident about saying it. All right, so you don't have to say anything, you don't have to repeat after me or anything like that if you don't want to, or if you're sitting somewhere and you look kind of funny speaking to yourself. The point is just to understand better. So we have push my way into something, and let's take a look at this towel here. Let's imagine. So we're going to go through some more examples over here. But let's imagine I have a space in this towel here. So there's a little bit of space. Maybe I could easily, I don't know, put like a few fingers into this, or I could put, a marker. There's enough space in here that it can move around. But if we start making the space very, very tight, it's very difficult to kind of get my finger or anything inside of this little space. So here I have to really push my way into this space in order to get into it. All right, so it's very small or narrow, or we just really don't have very much space to work with. So there's not much space to move around, much different from something like this. So if we have a larger space like this whole area here, I can easily get the marker in there if I'm putting a marker in, or a finger, or even my hand, something like that. So I have a space here, but here I'm just putting something in. I don't have to force anything or really push hard to do that. But if I have something very tight like this, very tightly wrapped, and there's not much space, I can't really get in here, then we should be able to, okay, we can call that pushing my way into something else. So we have a very simple physical example of this, but you could imagine something like a large crowd of people. So if I'm outside, let's say I want to get from this door over here down to this door, and I have to walk like this. If there's no one in the room, I can easily just walk across the room like that. So I can walk through, just like there's space in this towel, I can easily move my hand always move my hand in there very easily. But if there is a big crowd of people in here, you can imagine, I'm not going to fill up this whole thing, but imagine this whole thing, this whole room is packed very tightly with people. Then I have to push my way through that group of people. So again, push my way into or push my way through that group of people. So just to get in the door, I'm kind of pushing my way into the room. But if I want to move through this group of people, then I push my way through. You see the difference? So when we're just moving into some way over here, into some area, so I'm kind of pushing my way into this, and we did, I think that was last week, I read the story The Mitten, where we were talking about different animals pushing their way into a mitten that was on the ground. And so we have the same kind of idea here. When you're really trying to push and force your way into something, that's going to be like this idea here. We're pushing our way into something because it's harder to get into. If it's just an empty room, there's no one here, I can just walk. I can just walk into the room. Okay? So I can walk into the room, and then I can walk through the room. But if there's like a huge group of people or something, there's a lot of something in the way, so I can't move very easily, then I have to work very hard, like pushing my way through. You can imagine, like a worm or something. I'm going to draw a little worm in the ground here, so we'll erase our room. So here is a little earthworm, and it's just traveling under the ground. I'll put some grass up here, but you can see as he pushes his way through the dirt, he has to move the soil. So moving the soil or the dirt out of the way. So he's pushing his way through the soil as he makes a little tunnel like that. All right, so the same basic idea. So let's look at some other examples. There are many things we can do. If you think of anything in the mic is emitting some noise. Let's see. I wonder. Let me know if that's better. Is that better? Hopefully that, let's see. It shouldn't be making any noise, but is that okay? Let me know. It should be the usual. Now it's okay. Okay, I apologize for that. That's interesting. All right, so hopefully people get the idea here. We've got a little worm, and it's pushing its way through the soil. Pushing its way through the soil. All right, so we can take this towel, same kind of thing, and we can express a lot of different phrasal verbs in the same way. All right, so the first thing we can do, watch this one. We have something like fold up. Fold up. Fold up. So I'm going to take this, and I'm just actually folding something, and my hands are kind of moving in an upward way like this, so we fold up. Fold up. Now if I have even something like this, I could fold something down in the same way. So phrasal verbs, we can use them just talking about the direction that something is moving in. So if you want to be more specific or more precise about how something might be moving, we could fold something up or fold something down, or we could even fold something into something else. So I could fold it into something, or I could even like fold this into a ball. So make it more like a ball shape, or fold it into a particular shape to fold something. Now another thing we can do, if I take this towel and I want to wipe the board, just like I can wipe the board with this eraser here, we can talk about wiping something down or wiping something up in the same way. Wiping down, wiping up, same kind of idea. So I can do it with a towel, or I can do it like this, wipe it down. And this is usually like wiping off, like I'm taking something, so there is some kind of writing or marking on the wall. And I want to remove that, so I'm going to wipe that thing off, to wipe it off. So if it's on there, the opposite would be off. We're going to wipe something off. Now I think somebody just asked me about folding it. Yes, typically phrasal verbs, often they are just making the conversation, it makes it sound a little bit more casual and conversational. So if we take something like fold, or fold. We could fold this towel in different ways, and the native speaker would understand that. But sometimes we just want to say, yeah, could you please fold up fold up the blanket or fold up something like that. It's the same idea as just folding, but it sounds a little bit more natural and conversational to fold something up, all right? But I'm giving you these examples so you can understand the difference why a native might say fold up or fold over or fold back. So in this example, I can unfold something. So I'm folding something and unfolding at the same time, or I could fold something back, all right? Fold something back. So it's more about the perspective, how I might look at something and okay, I'm going to fold something back, like unfolding it, fold, unfold, fold, folding it back like that. Okay, so I can fold it in different ways, and it's okay to just say fold the towel. All right, but if you want to be a bit more precise, and sometimes it is useful and necessary to add the preposition there, like fold up or fold into or fold some other way, fold back. But you can see that with the way usually a person is moving. Okay, so we're just taking something nice and easy. The same way with wipe, or if we have something like I'm wiping the table, I could wipe off the table just like I could wipe something off up here. And often we'll use, a phrasal verb like clean up because we have something on the ground or on some kind of surface and we are removing that thing. So we're going from on that thing to off. So taking it, maybe something is on the floor, like I have a marker on the floor and I clean that up. I clean it up. So if I take something and I remove it, I can take it like either off or on, or remove it like up or down in the same way. All right. So if we're just talking about like applying something, like if I have some wax on my car and I put that on my towel, I might want to like wipe down the car because I'm taking this and putting it down on the car. I'm actually wiping down something in the same way that we might take just water. If I'm working at a restaurant or cleaning at my house and I take some water, put it on the towel and wipe down the tables. I'm wiping down the table. So I'm actually taking water and putting it on there. I want the water on the table because I'm cleaning the tables in that way. So when people talk about like, should we say wipe down or wipe off, you can say both usually in the same situation, but often the difference is that if we're talking about putting something on, like I'm putting water down on the table to wipe the table down, it just means I'm getting kind of water on there. Or am I talking about removing the dirt, like wiping up? All right. So both of those are fine, and I don't want you to worry about, oh, should I, like, which is the correct thing. The point here is more to understand the slight differences in how natives might describe a situation. All right. So when you see people doing it, I have some water on my towel, I put it on the table and wipe the table down. Wipe the table down. Okay. Or I could do basically the same thing, and I could talk about wipe off the table. So it's like I'm trying to wipe maybe some dirt or something like that and removing that from the table. So I can do the exact same action, but my thinking about it changes the way I speak. All right. So one more time, if I have some water on the towel, I can wipe down the tables. So I'm getting the tables wet, which is cleaning them off. That's the point of what I'm doing. So I can think about the action as putting water on the table, or I can think about the action as removing dirt from the table. But it's the same action, okay? So hopefully you get it. You see the idea about how we might wipe something down or wipe something off in the same way. All right, let me know if you have any questions about that. Let me go back and check chat. I'm trying to go through these pretty quickly because we do have a bunch of examples, and we'll see if we have time for questions. So I'm going to go quickly, but nice to see everybody here today. I'm just looking to see if anybody has any questions. I have a small problem that I'm busy. I have to do my homework as fast as I can. Well, enjoy the homework. Push my way into something. What does it mean? Okay, hopefully hopefully that makes sense. Yes, Annette. Look at that. You guys know each other's real names over there. So yeah, it's nice to see you guys, everybody out there. And hopefully, I guess like the mic should be working fine now. All right, but I think people are getting the idea here. All right. So when you're taking something like this, the point as often as you can is to watch what natives do So if you see a native doing an action and talking about that, this is really good when you're watching things like cooking shows. So maybe you're watching a native cooking show. They will describe what they're doing. So you can see exactly what's happening as they describe that, and there are lots of phrasal verbs. And don't worry about just phrasal verbs. The point is more just to see something and actually understand how natives are using it. And then you could take an example like we did with like push your way into a crowd or push my way into a job. So if I want to do something a bit more figurative, first I understand the physical use of it. So how we can see something, then we can think about, well, I like pushed my way into a job. So lots of other people were applying for the same job, but I was really loud and I went to the boss and I tried to talk with him. I kind of pushed my way into that job. Okay, so I'm kind of forcing my way into doing that thing, using some pressure or pushing in some way. So it's not just a physical thing like this. I can do this figuratively as well. All right, let me know if you have any questions. I wanted to cover just like a few of these. So some more of these you can think about. I can talk about rolling something up as well. Even if I don't have a particular direction I'm thinking about, I could roll something up. I'll just turn it this way for you. To roll something up. See, I've rolled up the towel. I rolled it up. Now I can unroll the towel. So roll the towel or unroll the towel. But typically rolling up is like this kind of thing. Now watch the difference here if I just say roll the towel. So if I just say roll the towel, typically that means like I'm moving the towel in a rolling way like this. This is rolling the towel. Like I might take this bottle over here and roll this bottle down the street or something, to roll something. So rolling up is really being more specific about the towel is in one space and I'm making it smaller by rolling the towel. So this is rolling the towel up, to roll up the towel. I think when I was a kid, there was it was a fruit snack or something called a fruit roll up. And it was just like a thin piece of thing that was rolled up like this. All right. So rolling, typically just rolling by itself. If we only use the word roll, this is more talking about the motion of something moving from one place to another, like a car tire might roll. But if we have something in one place and we're just doing like this, we're rolling it up. Okay. Now, I might have in a similar way, like let's say I have something hanging up here. I have a towel hanging up. So that's another example, to hang up, and I might unroll it or roll it down like that. To roll something down. Roll something down. Let's see, I think I just saw a question. I would rather use verbs without up, over, or whatever. Well, the point of these is really just to make it more specific about what you're talking about. And sometimes, as I mentioned, it is important to use this. Like here, if I just say roll the towel, if you told a native speaker to roll the towel, they would take it and like maybe try to roll the towel down the street or something. They would think about moving the towel some way. But if we're talking about rolling up, that's actually a different meaning. So sometimes when we're using a phrasal verb, like there's no real difference between fold the towel and fold up the towel. It's exactly the same thing. But a native speaker might have a slight nuance. They might be thinking about it in a slightly different way. But for you speaking, both of those are fine. Please fold the towel. Please fold up the towel. It's the same thing. All right, but sometimes it is important to have that the preposition there, like if we're talking about rolling up the towel rather than just rolling the towel. So if I roll something up, I'm actually closing it like this in a rolling way rather than just rolling something by moving it in a particular direction. Okay. So the point, if you're feeling overwhelmed or you're annoyed or it's frustrating that you have to think about these different things, just watch natives doing these different kinds of things like cooking or cleaning or something like that. I've made a couple of videos like that, but there are plenty of them right on YouTube here that you can see lots of examples of people describing what they're doing. So right now I'm cooking something. I'm going to unfold my napkin or my towel, and now I'm going to fold my towel. I'm going to wipe my hand. Or I could even talk about drying off my hands. So if my hands are wet, maybe I just washed my hands. Now I'm going to dry off or dry my hands. So here I could say dry or dry off. So I'm removing the water and the water is being absorbed by the towel. So I'm drying off my hands. I'm drying my hands with the towel. Both of those are fine, to dry off or dry my hands. But you can see lots of examples like this when people are, and again, this is another reason why we want to see many examples, especially different people talking about the same situation, because someone might say, fold the towel, and someone else might say, fold up the towel. And so as you see those different examples, you feel more confident and comfortable because you see that both of those things are fine. If you just get one example, then you're nervous and thinking about, oh, like, do we say fold up or fold or, and you start worrying about that. So this is why it's really important to get many, many examples of different native speakers doing things. So to listen to different speakers, actually see different people performing the same action, and that's what's going to help you understand the language much better, even before you speak. Okay, so again, the whole point of this video and all of the videos I make, it's really trying to get you fluent before you speak. So that way, when you do start speaking, you will feel much more confident. All right, let's go through a bunch of other ones over here. This is another interesting one. I'm going to do this more like a quiz and see if you understand, and maybe you can give me some examples of what I'm doing with the towel. What is this one? So there are a couple different ways I could describe this action I'm doing right now. What do you think I'm doing? If you can use two words like a phrasal verb to describe that, let me know. Just put those in the comments right now. But what is this? Giving up. Are you giving up? So giving up would mean to quit. That's kind of a way like, well, that would be a slightly different use of this. This is the throwing in the towel, to throw in the towel. George says fling. Fling would mean actually throwing the towel in some way. All right, so throwing the towel or tossing the towel, those different things, like you would be maybe moving, but you would actually throw the towel in some way. Yeah, so Roger says waving. Yes, I could be like this, like if my hand is up here, I'm waving the towel. Maybe there's some dust or some dirt in here. I could be shaking the towel out. So I'm shaking out the towel. All right. So yes, throw in the towel means to give up, but that, like, I wouldn't just be like holding up a flag like this, or I suppose if you're, or a towel or a flag. Some people do like hold up the white flag like that. So that means I surrender or I give up, or you actually take the towel or something and throw it into the ring. We talked about that in a, what was that? Like a previous video, but we talked about that specific example. And Revo says, can we use flick? So flick would mean you're doing something like this, moving like a very quick motion like that. So I could, like, if there's a little fly, I could kind of flick the fly away like that, or hit the fly. But here I'm shaking. So I could shake the towel, or you could talk about waving the towel. It depends on what my thinking is. So if I think, oh, there's some dust or some sand or something like that on the towel, I want to get it off, I might shake off. So I'm shaking it off. Like that Taylor Swift song, Shake It Off. That's that same idea of getting something off you that you don't want it on. A wave is a bit more of a relaxing motion. So if I'm waving the towel like this, I'm trying to get someone's attention like that. I'm waving the towel. Or I could kind of spin the towel like this. So if you're going to like a sports game or something, watching some baseball, basketball, whatever, people might swing the towel like this, to swing the towel around. So to swing around, or to wave around. But here I might be, you can even hear that little crack, that sound, that snap there. So I'm snapping the towel, so I'm shaking out, or I'm shaking off any of the little dirt that might be on here. Okay? Now remember that the point is not to try to memorize all these phrasal verbs. It's to see lots of examples and then understand how we might take a verb but express it in a slightly different way, depending on maybe we want to move something up or down or in or out, whatever the movement might be. All right, so don't worry about trying to memorize all of these. The point is just to see lots of examples and then to be thinking about that as you learn. So as you, instead of trying to learn English through your native language, you should be getting examples at your level, like you're watching even TV shows for kids or cooking shows or something like that, but those are going to give you lots of examples where you can see people talking about what they're doing. Okay, if you just have a person talking there, it's less helpful than having a person actually describe it, and that's why little TV shows for kids and especially cooking shows, they want to show you what's happening as they're talking about it. Okay, so I could be shaking it off or shaking it out. Shaking it out, like maybe you can kind of think about stuff inside this. So I'm shaking it off or shaking it out. I want to get all this stuff out of here. And now I have my clean towel again. Ooh, it's a little bit hot. I'm going to wipe off my sweat. Or if I have a lot of sweat, I could like wipe myself down. I need to wipe myself down, like just clean my body like from top to bottom, to wipe myself down. Okay, so you see how these work? So I could wipe the board like this. I could wipe off the board because I'm cleaning the board. There's something on here, some writing on here. I could also wipe off the sweat, or I could wipe myself down. So if I'm training very hard at the gym, I'm very sweaty. You can see sweat just rolling down. There's another phrasal verb, to roll down. So instead of rolling, we're rolling down, like in a particular direction, to roll down. Just like we talked about the towel over here. So if I roll up here, I'm going to roll up the towel for you again. Rolling up the towel. Here we go. Roll up, roll up, roll up. And then we roll down. Look at that. So it kind of comes down. It rolls down just like some sweat rolling down my face. So now I'm going to wipe myself down. Wipe myself down. So when you're talking about wiping yourself off, it's usually maybe just some kind of small thing. I'm wiping off a little face, or like my part of my face here, or wiping off my hands or something. But when you wipe something down, you're really trying to clean it thoroughly and cover the whole thing. I'll be rolling as an expression. So typically rolling is moving. So if you're saying, that's kind of a slang expression talking about movement, like picture me rolling, like I'm, rolling somewhere. I'm going like, it's time to roll. Like the Paw Patrol is on a roll, like you're starting to move somewhere. On a roll also means that you're talking about doing something continuously, or maybe continuing to do things well. So you could have like an athlete, a basketball player who shoots one shot and it goes in, and then they shoot another shot, and then another shot goes in. They're on a roll at this point. So meaning they've done something a number of times and it's continuing to go well. So there are lots of different reasons why we might use this, but just to make this idea clear, we begin with the situation. So you think about this, like this basketball player shooting lots of, maybe lots of buckets. And then in that expression, someone might say like, he's on a roll. He's on a roll. So we're talking about this, like this situation gets connected with this vocabulary. And you might have a similar situation that's also connected to that same vocabulary, like a person delivered a speech very well, and then delivered another speech very well. So it's like when you're starting to see a trend happening. So there's movement going there. And so look at that, like he's on a roll, or that other person, she is on a roll, or she's doing something very well. So it just means like she started doing something, and look at that. Now we kind of have that continuous motion, or something is performing better or looking better. Something is on a roll. All right, something is on a roll. All right, hopefully that makes sense. So it's the same kind of idea where we think about, we get something. Another expression similar to this is like to get the ball. To get the ball rolling. So to get the ball rolling means to start some kind of operation. Usually when we're beginning some kind of activity, if I imagine I have some heavy thing and I need to push it, so it's hardest at the beginning. Like I need to get the ball rolling, but once you get moving, then the ball continues to move and it's much easier to keep that motion going. So often that's why we're describing things in this way, like, oh, he's on a roll, or he's doing something continuously and doing it well. It's like the continuation is just like movement in that way. Let's see, in Portuguese, it would be something like rolling and unrolling. Yeah, so you can use rolling and unrolling in the same way, but I'm trying to give you more ways that natives might express themselves. So again, the point here is to understand taking things from a situation so you see what's happening, or you can understand the situation. Maybe someone is describing it or talking about it, whatever, even if you can't see it, but then you connect the situation with the vocabulary. All right, so we're not trying to take a word or a sentence or something in English and then connect that into a translation in your native language. We don't want to train you to think that way, because then that will train you to think and translate when you speak. Okay, so if you can think like a native when you're learning, if you think like a native English speaker when you're learning, because you can understand the vocabulary directly, so from the situation to the English, rather than trying to use a translation or think about a definition in kind of a textbook way. So if someone is just telling you the answer or explaining something, we really want you to understand what's happening. Okay? So if you understand what's happening, you can learn the exact same way children do. You will feel more confident that you understand things, and then you will be able to speak much more confidently. All right, let's look at a couple of these questions, though. Abdo says rapping. I'll cover that one in a minute. Let me just put this up here. Rap. Let's see. And the Rolling Stones. That's right. Yes, so that's from an expression, a rolling stone gathers no moss. So if you have a stone or a rock that's just sitting in a forest, it will often start to get little moss or green things growing on it. But if the rock is moving continuously, then there's no moss. It can't get old or covered with anything like that. That's the idea of the Rolling Stones. Let's see, Joseph says, "Hi, Drew, could you make a prompt to see if I'm using my target word correctly?" Something like the prompt you made a few. Well, it depends on you using it correctly. You can ask ChatGPT, just, would this be a correct example? Or you can ask ChatGPT to provide some examples before you give yours. So you can think about it. It's kind of like a quiz, maybe, how would I describe this? But when I'm working with ChatGPT, it's a lot easier if I describe a situation like this. So if I just say, hey, ChatGPT, can you translate this word into English or into Japanese or whatever the language is? So if I just ask for a translation, like the word free, if I say, hey, ChatGPT, could you translate that for me? ChatGPT will probably ask me, what meaning of free are you talking about? Do you mean free like you can move freely, or do you mean maybe something doesn't cost any money? What do you mean exactly? Of course, we are not free of the ambulances here, but I'm going to try doing these recordings in another space in the future, and we'll see if that helps. Anyway, so when you're trying to get a translation, it's better to explain to ChatGPT what the situation is. So even if you can't express that correctly, ChatGPT can understand the situation and then give you at least one good way to express that. But you can also ask for more. So say, hey, ChatGPT, here's a situation. What are some ways that natives might describe this? So one of these is, he's on a roll, or she's on a roll, or she's doing a great job, or she's continuously doing that. Another example from maybe basketball or something else is like on fire. He's on fire. So here we have like another expression about, so someone shoots a basket, makes that score, and then they get 2 or 3 more scores. Now it looks like there's a trend, or the person is doing something very well. So they're on fire. They're on fire. Now in basketball specifically, there is a thing called a heat check. So it's a similar idea, kind of connecting with this fire or whatever. So if a basketball player is making a lot of baskets, they might try some crazy shot just to see if it goes in, called a heat check. So if it goes in, they're like, wow, I'm really on fire today. All right, so they might take a really long shot or something. That's a heat check, a heat check. So So they're checking to see how hot they are. Are they on fire or not? But anyway, the point is here, we want to look at that and then see the situation and also get many different ways. So if you're using ChatGPT in that way, I would tell ChatGPT the situation, even if you can't explain it perfectly, just try to explain it. That will help ChatGPT understand. And then you can ask for multiple ways to respond to that, or what would be multiple ways that people might express something. Akikon says, if I can say he is in a role. So if you'd say he is in a role, it would mean like a guy is like inside a role in some way. But on a roll, it's like he's kind of like moving like this on a roll, if you want to think about it that way. But we wouldn't say in a roll, we would say on a roll. Reva says, is these two sentences correct? So you would say, are these correct? We clean the dust off the table. We clean the table off. Wait, we clean the table off of the dust. We clean the table off of the dust. All right, well, let me draw a picture of this so you can understand the difference between these two. So you can have something be, let me put wrap back up there, make sure I do that one, wrap. So if we have a table, and there's, some dust or something like that, we could take off the dust or wipe off the dust or clean off the dust. But so you can use like clean off the dust, or we could say clean, and then we could put this over here, clean the dust off. Both of those are fine. But if we say clean the table off the dust, it means like the dust is the thing we want to keep. So it's more like here's the dust on the ground and someone put a table on top of the dust over here. Oh no, we want to clean the table off of the dust. So that's a different thing. Here we are removing the table, but we keep the dust. All right? So the table, it's the opposite of what you want to say. But if you want to say, hey, we need to clean the table off the dust, that means we want to keep the dust, but we want to remove the table. But here we want to remove the dust and keep the table. So that's the difference. And this is why it's important to look at these differences when you're looking at these examples. So roll up the shutters. Yep, so that's another good example. If you have a store, something like that, where we have, you can imagine like a shutter coming down, and then in the morning we roll up the shutters. I'm not going to roll up this whole thing, but you get the idea. We're rolling it up like this, and then the whole shutter comes up for business, and then we roll the shutter back down like that. It's going back down when we close for the day. So some people, if they have a shutter in front of their door up here, some kind of like shutter like this, and this thing rolls down during the day and rolls up, rolls down at night and rolls up during the day. So if you're rolling up your shutters. And it says, can I say this when I want to start something to get the ball rolling? Yes. So anytime you're beginning something, like we're taking a trip or we're starting a project, or anytime we're beginning anything, I'm starting to clean my house or I'm starting to write something, let's get the ball rolling. So often the starting point is the most difficult thing for people. So we have to push. I'm kind of lazy, I don't really want to do anything, but if we just push a little bit just to get the ball rolling, it gets easier as we do it. So that's why we talk about something like just to get something started, to get the ball rolling. Let's see. Hi from Germany. You're my favorite teacher. Well, hello. Well, whatever your name is. Well, I've never seen a YouTube handle with no name on it, but hello. Well, thank you for that. Lewis says, roll up your sleeves is an expression, I think. Yes. So actually, I have short sleeves here. So when people are starting to do some work, they can kind of roll up their sleeves in the same way. So you're rolling up in the same way the sleeve. You can see it kind of gets bunched up a little bit like that. So it kind of rolls back up on itself just a little bit. Even if it folds or has some wrinkles or something, the idea is we're rolling up our sleeves. So this means, okay, it's time to get some work. Let's roll up our sleeves. So especially if people have longer sleeves. So years ago, people might be having longer sleeves and then they unbutton the little like the cuff links or the collar, the cuff button, and then roll up their sleeves so you don't get your shirt wet, or it's easier to move your hands like that, to roll up your sleeves. Presenter says, hi, Drew. Let's see. How are you? Nice to see you. Long time to speak to you. I watched all your videos. We're glad to hear. Abdul says, please, is rolling like folding, and what does fold mean? So fold typically means one motion where we take something and put it back on top of itself, like this. So if I have a flat towel like this, I'm kind of holding it like this for you, but just to fold something is just to put some of it back over on itself like that. So now I have a towel, I could fold it again like that. So folding it down in the same way. All right, I could fold it again like that to fold something. All right, so it's a different motion than rolling something. Like if I have a towel like this and then I start rolling it like this, you can think about it as a kind of fold, but it's a different motion. It's a circular motion where I'm rolling something up like that. So often people get food that has like a wrap or something, like we'll talk about this this word wrap, but this is a rolled up thing in the same way, to roll up some food or to wrap that thing up. Good questions there. How about the roller coaster? And Fastby says, can I say my tears are rolling down or my sweat is rolling down? Yes, so you would say like it's rolling down your face. So if you watch little drops of sweat, it kind of looks like they're rolling in a little bit, but they're sliding down. You can say they're rolling down, or they are running down, or sliding down your face, or dripping down your face. Again, we use these different phrasal verbs because we want people to understand like how sweaty we are. So if I'm just a little bit sweaty, maybe just a few little drops or beads of sweat, some drops or beads of sweat, then we have like it's maybe coming down. I'm really, really hot. I have just like a lot of stuff coming down my face. Like now sweat is running down my face. Or I could say sweat is pouring down my face. Okay, so rolling down or pouring down or whatever, or a tears are running down my face or rolling down my face. So this is why we can take a verb and like a direction that thing is happening and put these things together to describe all kinds of things. So we can talk about like what's moving, like the rain in the same way. So the rain could be falling down, where we think if I talk about rain falling down, it's going to be more rain if I think about rain is pouring down. So we have the same direction, but we're changing the verb, meaning there's a lot more water. So wow, it's pouring outside. So instead of just rain, it's pouring rain. So it's pouring rain. So we can take something and describe where it's going or how it's going, and that's why phrasal verbs are so useful for learning the language. But all these, again, it's so people can understand exactly what's happening in the situation, because we want to connect the situation with the vocabulary rather than you trying to use a translation in order to understand these things. Marceliana says, hello. Let's see. And Pablo says, is this an old live? Well, it depends on when you're watching it. It's live at the moment, but it will be, I guess, old technically when people watch it later. Pablo says rolling the wires or wrapping the wires. So we could take, if we talk about rolling a wire, like that would mean like this is a really thick wire. You could imagine that, like that would be rolling a wire like that. But wrapping a wire would be more like I'm going to take something and wrap it around like that, to wrap a wire. All right. We can also use wind in that way. Wind. I think someone also asked about pour, P-O-U-R. So pour, if I take this this bottle, I'm not going to do this, but imagine I do. I take off the top here and I tip the bottle. So T-I-P, I just tip the bottle slightly. So just a little bit of water runs down here. So you'll see a little bit of water come out and run down or slide down the side of the bottle. But if I tip it completely, all the water pours out. Okay, so depending on what my action is trying to do, I can talk about the direction or how much or how fast. All of those things are going to be like these different nuances or the exact thing you want to express. As you see more people doing that or more natives talking about these things, you get to understand how this works. So pouring, like rain could be falling very lightly. Sometimes we have light rain, sometimes we have heavy rain, and people often describe heavy rain as pouring rain. It's like someone took a cup of water and actually poured it on top of your head. All right. Hopefully people understand the difference there, but you can see that when you look at these differences in how the language works. So Abda says, why the fluent when speaking about the rain, they say it's like dogs and cats or something like that. Oh, it's just an expression, means it's really raining very hard. To be raining dogs and cats. It's like you can imagine dogs and cats actually falling from the sky. Like there's just so much rain. It's like, wow, there's a huge amount of rain falling, or the rain is pouring. That's just another way to say that having lots of rain falling. I noticed they use different examples for the basketball players, baskets and buckets. For the shooting, I can use hoops too. We don't describe a hoop as a score, but you can say like, so basket is the name of the thing, but we can also talk about the like getting a basket or shooting a basket, but we don't call that a hoop in that way. So yeah, you're thinking in the right way about it, but people don't use the expression. So I might get some buckets or get some baskets, but I don't get hoops. We don't use that expression. So logically, it seems like we could, but people don't use that. You could say like shooting hoops, like I'm shooting hoops, or shooting buckets or something like that, but we wouldn't say like I got a hoop, but you would say I got a bucket. So it kind of refers to the action of something going into that, where the hoop is just the actual ring. I think that maybe it might be the if you want to think about it kind of logically, a ring or a hoop is like this, but a bucket or a basket is like this. So if you're talking about getting a ball into something like this, it's actually moving into this space, but this one is just kind of going through that one. So we talk about shooting hoops, or you could talk about shooting rings as well. Like, I mean, people don't use that for basketball, but you could say that, like I'm shooting hoops. That's just an expression for basketball. But you could say shooting baskets or shooting buckets as well, or getting baskets or getting buckets. But it's more you're getting something inside rather than this. So that's more of a logical way to think about why we would say one thing but not say something else. So it seems very similar, but so the net on a basketball hoop or a basketball ring looks like that, and so it looks more like a bucket, and you're talking about the whole thing rather than just the ring on the top. Now, maybe I'm not a professional basketball player and I didn't think out these things. I'm not deciding what those are, but when I'm learning something in a language, I'm trying to give my brain a way to understand it logically so that I can think, oh, okay, like that might not be the real reason, but it's helpful for me in understanding it so I can use it fluently. So I don't go to the basketball team and say, oh, he got some rings. That someone might think like they mean like rings on your finger or something like that, like he has some rings. All right. So that's one way to think about it. I think someone else mentioned wrap. Now, wrapping, this is another similar idea, like talking about folding something or rolling something in the same way. So we can have something, let's say I want to wrap this marker. I can just say the word wrap and not change anything or add a preposition or anything else. If I go to the store and buy this as a present for someone, please wrap the marker. So here we go. I'm just going to wrap, I put a cover on this thing. So to wrap the thing up, it just means it's covered and you can't see the thing inside it. Maybe it's wrapped for a present or some other reason, or like I get some meat from the butcher and they wrap the meat for me. Now, I could also talk about wrapping it up. So I could use the preposition up there as well to wrap something up. And this is typically, if we take you can think about it logically, like I put the wrapping paper on, or whatever, the bag or something on a table, and I put the object on top of that thing, and now I'm going to put the wrap up and then cover that thing. So I'm going to take this other side and put it up and cover that thing as well. So I'm wrapping something up. Now this is, again, it's the same thing as wrapping something. In this situation, remember, the point is to connect the vocabulary with the situation. So if I wrap something or wrap something up, it's the same idea, okay? So in this situation, I can say both, to wrap something up or just wrap something, okay? In the same way, I could talk about unwrapping. So to wrap something and to unwrap something, okay? Hopefully you got it. All right, let's see if we have, so the wrap option appears in a Windows notepad to refer to wrapping text. Yeah, so wrapping text would mean if we have, this is a specific computer term, so for this situation, you can think about text like the notepad thing. The text, you can think about it as continuing off of the pad like that. So it won't actually show you what it is, but we want to take this and wrap it down here, and so this is another use of the word wrap, all right? W-R-A-P, to wrap something. So we want to continual or have it kind of flow continuously, even if it's a different sentence or something like that. If it's one idea, we're going to have it go like this, or we could unwrap the text and it would just continue like that. Okay, so similar kind of idea where we have something, we're like maybe folding it back up on itself. So you can think about, there are probably other ways we could describe that same thing. Maybe we could just have like maybe flow the text or something, or like continue in the same space. Wrap just seems like a nice, simple way to express that, and that's probably why people chose that word to describe this. But you know, there are a couple different ways we might do that. All right, let's see here. So, okay, we got that one. So that, yeah, it's a good point, Julie. And Tom, I see Abda says when we add in or into or on or up and by what was changed. So it depends. Number one, you have to look at the situation. Sometimes the situation doesn't change at all, and you could, like here we have wrap the marker, please wrap the marker, or I could say wrap up the marker. Both of those are fine. So for this situation, it's not about like we always use wrap or wrap up. The point is the situation is connected with the vocabulary. Okay, so for this situation, we want to wrap something or wrap something up. That's when we would say that, rather than just like thinking about the vocabulary by itself. The vocabulary is always used with a situation, and that's why natives are always learning the things, because they're learning things together, connecting the situation with the vocabulary. But often non-native learners, they're learning the vocabulary, either connecting it with a translation, or they just have a list of words and they're trying to understand what those words mean. But the truth is, vocabulary is connected with situations. So there might be times when we should use a word or should not. So don't try to think about it like, what are these words to memorize? You need to connect the vocabulary with the situation to understand it like a native. All right? And sometimes when we do that, like this one, I could wrap the marker or I could wrap up the marker. And in this situation, both of those are fine. All right? But we had the example before where we might say like roll the towel or roll up the towel, and in that way it's actually two different things. So if I take, a towel like this, I could even ball up. So here, this is like to put something into a ball form. That's another phrasal verb, to ball up something. So maybe I'm writing something on a piece of paper. I don't like it, I ball up, or I crumple up the paper and throw it away. So to ball up something. So I could take this balled up towel and roll that thing. All right? So in the word wrap, the letter W is silent. Yes. So it's a silent W. I apologize for the silent letter. So we could take a ball like this, like an actual ball, or a balled up towel, and then roll that towel. So here there would actually be movement. The ball would move, or the towel would move from here to some other place. So I'm rolling the towel. But if I want to roll up the towel, I actually mean we take a flat towel and roll it like this. So this is rolling up. You see the difference? So here, it's actually important because it means two different things if I say roll the towel or roll up the towel. Okay, so I can be talking about like the same kind of thing. Like right now, I'm rolling the towel. Like this is the thing I'm doing. I'm rolling something. But people will usually say rolling up just so they're clear. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about rolling the thing up. See, it's rolling. You can see it's winding up like that. So I could roll it up, or I could roll it down in the same way. So if I turn it and roll it the other way. So I unroll or roll down, something like that, same kind of idea. All right. So I know you want to begin the natural, like the kind of automatic thing that people do. When you typically learn English as a second language, you begin with vocabulary in your native language. So your teacher will explain something to you. Like here is a word in, let's just say Spanish over here. So we have some word in Spanish, and then we want to translate that into a word in English, okay? But when people look at that, like they say, they're beginning with the word and trying to get a definition of the word by itself, but that's actually coming from the definition of the thing in Spanish. And it might mean something different in English. So like I gave the example before about the word free. So in Japanese, I could say like muryo, or I could talk about like jiu, like to do something freely rather than like not having to pay for that thing. So if you're beginning with your native language and then looking for a translation, you're probably going to have more trouble expressing yourself. But if you can understand things in English, it will be much easier for you, and that's where you're going to feel much more confident because you understand, oh, in this situation, this is the vocabulary natives use. Okay? So don't think about starting with your native language or starting with, like a bunch of words. We actually begin with like the situation. Let's put sit over here. So we begin with the situation and think about what words we might use in that situation. Because there could be different things, like could be different English for a particular situation, like wrap up and wrap for covering something like that. So if I buy a present or something and wrap up that present for someone, that's what we get, all right? So we could say wrap, or we could say wrap up for this situation. All right, so it's really important to connect situations with vocabulary. So enroll, those are different things. Unroll means like to when you see it's like the opposite. So we take something that's rolled up and we unroll it. But to enroll in something is like going to a school or joining a program, something like that. To enroll. Let's see. Raimundo says, do people confuse you with Tom Hanks? No, nobody ever does that. It's only on YouTube videos, and probably when people say I look like Tom Hanks, they're probably referring to Forrest Gump, like that specific movie, rather than just Tom Hanks in general. But I've never had people in America think I look like Tom Hanks. But it's interesting, like if you have experience, it's like when I come to Japan and I say, wow, like everybody looks like Ichiro out here, I kind of make that joke with people. It's like, wow, everyone looks like Ichiro. I mean, everyone does not. You spend time. But even in my case, nobody has ever said I look like Tom Hanks. But I do get that comment a lot, and it's probably from people because of just like Forrest Gump, because he had short hair. I think he was in the military in that movie. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. But yes, it's. If you think I look like Tom Hanks, that's fine. Fine. Let's see. Can I use crumple for a soft material? Crumple is the same as a wrap in some ways, right? Yeah, good question. Yes. So crumpling is where we take something. I'll kind of squeeze it together, and you start to see wrinkles like that. So now I'm like kind of pushing it together. You see the wrinkles. So a soft material can kind of crumple or wrinkle in this way, but typically we use it more for harder materials. Like a piece of paper will crumple, and you can see the lines. Usually with a softer material, the crumple doesn't remain there if we uncrumple it. So I could iron this again or lay it out flat. But if we crumple a piece of paper, then those lines are still there. So you could crumple a car, like cars would have designed crumple zones. So spaces where you hit another car, they're designed to crumple and like to absorb that energy better. So just like a balled up piece of paper. So you can talk about like a crumpled up towel, but it'd be more conversational and natural to say a balled up towel. So we take something and kind of ball it up in this way, or just press it together or ball it up. So I'm talking about more the shape that I create with this thing. So I could ball up this thing. I could ball up a car. Actually, I could take a car if I was strong enough and like crush it down with my hands into the shape of a ball in the same way. So anytime we're taking something and pushing it together, you can ball up a thing, anything like that. So MBO says how to get fluent in phrasal verbs. Like you get fluent in those in the exact way I'm showing you here. So as you see more examples of them, you start thinking more like a native and you can anticipate what people are talking about. So that's how you really start knowing that you're feeling fluent, because you know what natives are going to say in a particular situation. So you remember there's a situation, something happens or you're describing it. How would you say that in English? And there might be many ways you could express something. So roll over typically means like we have something on one side and we're going to now roll it over to look at the other side. Like I could roll my hand. You can think about like the way, imagine there's like a little bar moving through the inside of my hand. So I could turn over, that's the same thing. I could turn over my hand, or I could roll over my hand in the same way. So to turn over or to roll something over. Okay, so again, like this is a situation where I could say turn over. So turn over and roll over. For this specific situation, I really want to make this clear. Right now, we're just talking about my hand and looking at the other side of it. So I could put my hand on a table, or I could put my hand up here, and someone says, hey, could you roll over your hand or roll your hand over? And that's what I would do. So it's kind of like a rolling. You can see like my arm is like a pole here, and I'm rolling something over. So it's going from one side to the other, but moving in this way. So it's kind of spinning around on something like this. So to roll something over like that. So I could turn something over, or I could also say flip. So to flip over. So if I'm showing it, it's a slightly different nuance, like flip over. It's a faster motion, flip over, but I can use all of these things for describing this situation. So here's my hand. Oh, can you turn it over? Or can you roll it over? Or could you flip it over? The same thing. So the same thing if we have a piece of paper or whatever. The slight difference is like if we have something like this. So this bottle doesn't really have different sides like my hand does. So my hand has a top and a bottom. It's pretty easy to see, so I could turn it over or something like that. But this one, we could say like flip it over, but it's hard to see like what side you're talking about. So here with a round object, people talk typically about rolling something over. So it's on this side. Now we want to roll it so it's on this other side over here. To roll something over. Okay. Also, I've put lots of these phrasal verbs in the description below this video. So if you click on the link, or you'll find the link there too for Fluent for Life to learn more about this. But you can also see lots of these phrasal verb examples. Let's see. And Askew says, can I say she had him wrapped around her finger? Yes. So this expression, like a woman or a man or something like that, or a boss, there are different ways you might describe this. But to have someone wrapped around your finger it means you're controlling them or you're able to tell them what to do in some way. So that's a casual expression for that. So she has him, like there's a guy that really likes some girl, but the girl maybe doesn't care about him or whatever, but she can say, could you please go get me a diamond ring? And the boy will go get the diamond ring for her. Wow, she really has that guy wrapped around her finger, or wrapped around her little finger. Yes, lots of interesting expressions with these things. So rollover meaning, so I think I just gave that example though. Let's see, Starmy loves, says, hi teacher, I study in Australia now. It's so many different accents and slang in the U.S. I'm so confused sometimes. Yes, I know this happens, and it can be confusing when you have lots of different examples or different accents, but you can use that to your advantage. So you can actually use that to help you improve by kind of focusing. So if you get a bunch of people talking about the same thing and try to keep that very focused, like even this, I could describe this situation to natives and to say, what am I doing here? What is the action I'm doing right now? And some people might say turn over, or someone might say roll over, or someone might say flip over. All of those are correct, but you can see, now I feel a little bit more confident that I could use these expressions in this way, and that way maybe I forget turnover, but I do remember rollover, okay? So maybe I'm lying on my stomach or something, and then I roll over like that. Now I'm lying on my back, okay? So if I'm on a massage table, and the person giving me the massage, so the masseuse or the masseur says, could you please turn over, or could you roll over? They probably wouldn't say flip over like I'm a pancake or something. So in that situation, it's slightly different. They would probably have a slower movement. Oh, could you please turn over, or could you please roll over? So instead of making the client or the customer feel like a pancake or something like that, where you're going to quickly flip that person over. But if you want someone to move faster and you can speak casually in that way, then it's okay to say flip over as well. All right. Some good questions though. Let's see here, like an omelet. Exactly, yeah, to flip over. Like your fan back, there are 111 connected watching the live, and I'm like number 58. Let's thumb up if you can cherish learning. Yes, cherish the learning. So this means like you really love something deeply, to cherish that. And if you do, that would be fantastic. Asky says, can I say that I've been dragged through the mud if someone had scolded me completely? You can be dragged through the mud for different reasons, and this is another thing we can actually demonstrate with a towel. So if I take someone and I like attach them maybe to the back of my car, and I drive them through a bunch of muddy puddles like that, I can drag them around or drag them through some muddy puddle. That's where we get that expression. So I'm taking them and just making life very unpleasant for them. But I could be doing that. It's typically used when people are maybe like, even if you don't do something wrong, but someone else is trying to make life difficult for you. So maybe I'm a new person at work, and I don't know, maybe some people like me, but one person does not like me, and he's like dragging my name through the mud. So he's saying bad things about me, so it's not even just dragging me. It's the idea of that. It's not physically dragging me, but you could talk about dragging someone's name through the mud also. So even if you don't do anything wrong, it's just other people making life difficult for you, or giving you a bad reputation or something like that, to drag someone through the mud. Let's see, Pablo says flip over the chicken. Yes, you could say flip over the chicken or flip the chicken over. Same thing. Someone on a roll. Yeah, okay, I think everybody's got it though. All right, looks like we've been going for about 60 minutes. I'll do like some last examples here, but if anyone has any questions, you can let me know. Again, the whole point of this is to make you feel more confident about the vocabulary before you speak. So you don't become fluent simply by reading, like you get a translation or a list of words, and then trying to just repeat those again and again. You really have to connect the vocabulary with the situation for that situation. So you become fluent, you become comfortable and able to speak about something when you see examples of how natives would do that. So this is how children learn their language. They see what mom and dad and friends are saying. Like if they describe something, like a person gets hit and they say, "Oh, ouch." That's how children learn to say ouch. All right, so MBO says, why I forget the meaning of words. It's typically because you're kind of thinking about words rather than connecting words with situations. And words become much easier to remember when you can actually make that connection yourself. So when I'm teaching, I'm trying to give you examples along with the vocabulary that people would use, and then that will help you to make those connections and keep those connections in your mind. But if you begin with vocabulary, or you just begin with some maybe things you want to say in your native language, then it's going to be more difficult to understand, and you will probably forget the English you learn. Okay? So if you want to remember your vocabulary, this is the way you do it. You really have to understand things well, see lots of examples, and hear different natives describing the same situation in that way. In the book I'm working on now, I tell a story about how I go to a Japanese cafe, and I'm just listening to all these different people ordering food. So it's the situation is people ordering stuff. So I don't, maybe people order like a slightly different thing, but I start getting the like the understanding for the patterns that people use. So when you're ordering something in English, maybe you would say, "May I have something?" or "Could I get?" or "Could you please?" something like that. So in this situation, there are a couple different ways you can see people expressing themselves. So that way you really come to feel confident that, wow, it's not just one thing that the textbook told me. I'm actually discovering all these different things. And the things you discover, those are the things you believe the most because you have personal experience with that. All right, so there are a couple different ideas here, but if you're forgetting vocabulary, it's usually because you're starting with vocabulary rather than starting with a situation and then seeing how natives would express that. So this is where it's also useful to use something like ChatGPT. So you would describe ChatGPT like ordering food or whatever that thing is, and then ChatGPT will give you some different ways that natives would express that. Let's see. Axis says, is it correct to say never throw the towel like never quit? Never throw the towel like never quit. No, you would just say don't throw in the towel, or you would say don't quit. So you're kind of putting those things together. So to throw in the towel means, and remember, it's not just like throw the towel, it's throw in, because the idea is that you have people like a boxer, and the boxer is losing, and the manager says, okay, we're just going to throw the towel inside the ring, so the boxing area, and that means please stop the fight, we give up. That's why we say throw in the towel, and not just like, I'm not just throwing a towel, like, oh, I threw the towel. People, what do you mean throw the towel? Like, oh, I threw in the towel. So it's like I'm putting something into the ring to tell everyone else, hey, we give up, so we quit. All right, so you could quit, or you could throw in the towel, to throw in the towel. So don't give up. Conan says it's really helpful to put some imagination with photos, which will let you know without even saying one single word. Yep. And you can also do Google image searches. So if I'm looking for a word, let's say a word in English, like the word bridge, I can look for that word as an image search, and it will give me a bunch of different image examples to help me understand. All right, Kendi says, hello, I understand listening more than speaking. It's normal that maybe I get used to listening more and I don't practice much speaking. Well, yes, for everybody's in general. I can't really think of someone who speaks better than they understand. I mean, pretty much everybody would understand better than they speak, pretty much. But the point for developing your understanding so that you can speak, you don't need to speak in order to do that. You just need to get more examples and eliminate the doubt that stops you from speaking. So what's really stopping most people from speaking is that they feel nervous or worried or unsure about something. It could be grammar or pronunciation or whatever the problem is, but that's their issue. So it's not that they don't understand something, but they have a concern about using it themselves. And so I might recognize something. A native could speak to me and I could follow the general idea of what they're saying. But when it's my turn to speak, I don't feel very confident about what I'm talking about, so I can't really use it correctly. Okay, so that's the reason that it's better to get more examples until you really feel confident, and so you can eliminate the doubt that stops you from speaking before you speak. That's why I talk about get fluent, then speak. The typical way people learn is they learn something a little bit, but they don't really understand it very well, or they probably have some kind of doubts, but then they just start speaking. They try to repeat that thing again and again, but they never really become fluent. Okay, so the practice that gets you fluent is understanding the language better. So for me, learning Japanese, I don't spend all my time just talking with people. I spend actually very little time speaking, but I spend a lot of time getting lots of input that helps me end my doubts about Japanese. So if I have a Japanese, I don't know, like a word or something I want to say, but I don't feel confident about it, then repeating that word is not going to help me. Okay, I really want to make this clear. So let's just contrast these two ideas very quickly. And this is something that's very easy for you to test yourself and prove it. So I used to think, this is my I used to think that you are you learn something. And then you repeat that, and then you get fluent. That's the general idea. So you learn something, and then you try to repeat it to yourself again and again, and then you get fluent. But this doesn't really happen for most people. And even a lot of the people watching these videos or other videos that are trying to learn, they do this part, and then they do this part, but then where is that part? Why doesn't that come from the I should be getting this part over here. Why doesn't that happen? So this is called learning English as a second language, and this is what most people are doing. And this is for most language learning in general. So you learn something you get a translation or something, and then you try to repeat that, and then somehow you get fluent. That's the idea of how it works. So it seems like it's a simple thing. Oh, okay, you learn something and repeat that, and then you get fluent. But why doesn't that work? So why, for most people, for me, why didn't that work? And the reason is because at this point right here, learning and repeating things is actually really easy to do, excuse me, by yourself. So if I'm learning something and just repeating it, saying it again and again, I can control this. I can control this situation, but this situation I cannot control. All right? So I get into a conversation and I don't know what people are going to say. All right? The real problem with actual communication is it's unpredictable. We'll just say uncontrolled. And so in an uncontrolled situation, there are many different things you have to think about. And if you don't know what people are going to say or you're not prepared for that, then you're going to have a lot of trouble with that situation. Okay? So the opposite thing, so this is what I used to do. I used to do this. Okay? And I want to make it clear that the point is not just to listen to the language, it's to understand the language very well. Okay? So when you learn English as a first language, the thing that I recommend, the learning process, you don't really worry about repeating so much, but the point is to end doubt. So listening is one way you can do this, but if you have any questions about vocabulary or what you might say in a situation, then you will not be able to speak fluently. Okay, so all the work is really done over here, ending doubt. Okay, so it's not just listening or even speaking. Again, I spend very little time in my day or even in a week speaking Japanese. I could say, I don't know, maybe like an hour or less actually speaking. But I'm becoming more fluent. The fluency actually comes like as I'm learning and understanding the language better. So that's how it works. So maybe for other people it works in a different way, but for me and the people I've helped, if you end the doubt that stops you from speaking, then you will speak. So speech becomes like the last thing over here, and the fluent part happens over here. Okay, you see the difference? So it's the opposite. So we want to move we want to move from understanding the language like just a little bit, and maybe like you still have a lot of doubt over here. Doubt. And here you have no doubt. All right? So you can do this before you actually get into a conversation with someone. This is why I say you should get fluent, then speak. So yes, you can start repeating things to yourself if you like, and it's going to help you a little bit, but the more important thing is to end the doubt that you have about speaking, whatever that doubt is. So it could be doubt about pronunciation or grammar or something, but until you end that doubt, that's going to cause you a lot of trouble. Okay? So the typical thing is like learn a little bit, but not really understand things perfectly. And you're just like, well, I'm kind of nervous. I don't really understand with whatever, like, you know, that's what you're talking about. So this person, Kanun over here, that like keeps commenting. So I'm working on my accent. I want to sound like a native. So here's how you do that. You do that not by like working on your accent. You do it by seeing lots of examples of how natives actually talk. If I see 100 different people say a word, I'm going to feel very confident about how to say that word. I'm not like working on my accent. I'm seeing a bunch of other people do that. So before I speak, I'm seeing lots of examples of that. And it's not just for accents, it's for anything. If I want to know how to communicate about a situation, that's what I want to do. So again, like even before you're speaking with other people, you can improve your pronunciation, you can improve your use of grammar, you can improve everything about your vocabulary. And the point is you're doing it in like a controlled, comfortable way, rather than trying to know something a little bit and then speak before you feel comfortable. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. All right, so that's basically the idea. And the more you can eliminate doubt before you speak, the more you will feel confident when you do speak. All right, we're going to close it down here. But thank you for joining me as usual. If you'd like to learn more about how to do this, you can click on the link in the description below this video. But remember, the main idea is that you don't have to put a lot of pressure on yourself to speak. You don't have to speak to become fluent. You get fluent as you understand something better. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. You can click on the links in the description to learn more, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.